Welcome back to Tech, Tesla, and Trends. Tonight, we're going to discuss the closing of the Twitter deal and why that's important to the overall, call it the expansion of the Muskiverse or some other thing like that, and ultimately the formation of X Corp, which will provide us with the Everything app. Right now, you're watching this video on YouTube. As soon as X Corp is formed, I guarantee you that we will look at a new broadcasting platform entering this arena. That platform will be a competitor in the form of videos that are able to be shot like this and broadcast on the new Everything app. So where this leads us is a very interesting environment. And I thought I would just preview where I think the Everything app will take us eventually. And we'll check in on this periodically as the plans unfold and as the overall adventure that the Everything app will bring us after the close of the Twitter entanglement is long over with. All right, so some of the apps that I see coming out of this, or that will be competitors that the X Corp will bring out, are a competition for YouTube, for TikTok, for the short format, which YouTube is itself trying to compete with. Obviously, we have Twitter already, which will likely remain in its in a similar format for tweeting. I don't know how it will change, but obviously Elon's a huge fan of Twitter. As far as the format, there's obviously some things that are going to improve, and I really look forward to seeing how that really comes about. The next items I see is some form of a subscription platform. Many of you are Patreon subscribers, and Patreon itself is going to be one of those that I think has a new competitor in what X Corp will kick out. Is a subscription model. So we'll be able to create, and I will create, content that will be behind a paywall. Just like everybody else has Patreon or some other format of rewarding content creators, this will be the X Corp version of it. And I don't know what they'll call it, and it doesn't matter what they call it. The reality of it is competition is again coming. And in this case, it's Tesla bringing it, or Elon bringing it to the market. And another item I see here, because it's a natural extension, is that of an RSS broadcast method, so podcasting can come into this format. And again, it's a natural interconnection, and then an extension to that leads us into the more of an audio book format. So as a publishing format for free speech and for the continuation of what Amazon has begun. But even Bezos recognizes that Amazon has its flaws, which I think is one of the reasons he began divesting and exiting, contrary to his belief that he's going to ever compete with SpaceX. The next item I see on there is some form of a Facebook interaction type profile platform associated with this. That's going to likely be the end of Meta in some way, shape, or form. Meta's already got its problems, as we've watched it tumble over the last little while. And the Oculus founder saying, it's not even fun. I mean, what do you expect? You give it you've got a cardboard leader there. Yeah, that's just another one that's very entertaining. Obviously, as that all moves forward, we have this thing called Starlink that Elon's involved with through another one of those small companies called SpaceX, and T-Mobile having a partnership. Well, that's a communications aspect of it, and I could easily see some form of an interaction that leads us into like an Apple-styled FaceTime, video chat component to this Everything app, which is another one of those natural extensions of the existing platform. Then there's a giant elephant in the room called PayPal. With PayPal entering into this, we're going to fine you for speech that we don't approve of market, PayPal being one of the original endeavors of Elon's, PayPal, your days are numbered in this regard, because you are entering into the anti-free speech zone, which is what brought Twitter to Elon's radar. So as this is where PayPal begins to see it starts to call its swan song. It'll be a while, but censorship in any way, shape, or form or fine is still censorship. And that's not going to be an acceptable. And in fact, the loan account that I have there has its days numbered too. Just as soon as X is up and available, they're gone. So then you have Tesla's Dojo. Now, I know the jury's still out on Dojo, and even in Elon's mind, but we're going to go out on a limb here and assume that Dojo is as expected and is a much better training platform / whatever it becomes. But how are you going to sustainably run and operate that, as well as your communications empire? Well, eventually AWS is not sufficient, and you begin standing up your own servers. So I could see in this at some point some formation that the X Corp is going to bring in an AWS style server farm, bring everything in-house internally, which is consistent with how Elon tends to operate. And over time, I can see that absolutely happening. And the final piece of that puzzle at some point is an Instagram type app that comes into play. So you have truly everything that is on the social media platforms that is going to come into play over time. And I would guess that we're probably looking at a very, from a perspective of time, less than 5 years to see these begin to roll forward. I would expect to see that payment wall be one of the earliest adopted features that we'll see come out or be birthed on this new platform. But what are the results of all of these things, these platforms being brought forward on a unified perspective? Keep that in mind, because one of the hallmarks of Elon is more of a unified ecosystem. Remember, all of his employees at any of his companies are able to interchange where they work and projects that they are working on based upon their effectiveness for the company. So as we think about that, there's some implications, and that will be the subject of tomorrow's video. And it's just to touch base a little bit from a preview, it's more than just free speech. It is a lot more than just free speech. And I challenge you to take some time and think about that tonight, or give it some serious thought as to what are the benefits, what are the things that come out of the everything approach that Elon is proposing. And I think that you will be very pleasantly surprised at how many items come to mind. And we'll discuss those in the next video. Have a good night.